So when it comes to developing your business as a franchise, the starting point is to plan and plan properly. It starts with the franchise business model. What you need to do is look at what you will help a franchisee to do and what you will do yourselves. It's important to identify what you will help a franchisee to do before they set up the business, and to look at what you'll do after they set up the business. Because anything that you do to help them before the business starts up, you need to identify and cost, and that becomes the basis of your initial franchise fee. And anything you do afterwards needs to be costed, because that becomes the basis of your ongoing management service fee. So getting the business model right is the starting point. Then you need to look at the project team. Who is going to be involved in developing the franchise within your business? It's really easy if there's only 2 or 3 people in the business, because it's all of you. But if you're a bigger business, then you need to look at who needs to be involved rather than who wants to be involved. Because the important part is that you have people who know what they're doing and can add value to the franchise package you develop. Then have a look outside and say, who else is franchising? Who else is in our industry? What can we learn from them? What is their offer? And have a look and see if the sort of people that you're looking for to be franchisees can actually be identified, and whether they would be interested in buying into your business as a franchisee. But don't forget, there are other ways of growing your business. There are license agreements, there's business opportunities, and maybe even there's organic growth. Maybe these are better for you in growing your business. And if you're only looking for 3 or 4 additional business units, you're probably better just doing it yourself rather than investing the time and energy in franchising. Then you need to sit down and actually analyse your business against what is essential to be able to franchise. There are 5 key criteria that you need to satisfy. The first is, do you have a brand? Is that brand recognisable in your industry, and is it protected? Do you own the trademark? That's the first thing I ask people when I'm advising them on setting their business up as a franchise. Do you own the trademark? Is it registered? And can you license that to the franchisee? Next thing to look at is, are you profitable? You'd be surprised how many people come to me saying, if only I had 3 or 4 more franchisees, then I'd be really profitable, I'd be making lots of money. But in reality, if you can't make money out of the business, how can you expect a franchisee to do that? The next one is there enough margin in your business? The franchisee will get the bulk of any profit. Now, is there enough left for you to support them if you take that away from their available profit? So you've got to look very carefully. Is there enough margin to share with a franchisee? Then you need to look at whether your business has got a long-term life. One of the original founders of the British Franchise Association is no longer in business. Their business was was protecting cars against rust. But the manufacturer started doing that at source, and what happened was that the business ran out of customers, and within 3 or 4 years it has ceased trading. So you have to make sure you have a long-term offer for a franchisee. And it also has to be a business that you can train a franchisee how to run in a relatively short period of time. There are a few franchisors who are optometrists, but they franchise to qualified optometrists who already know how to do the eye tests, but the franchisor teaches them how to run the business. So all these are fine, and you need to measure your business and make sure that you match each of these 3 criteria. But then you need to look at something else. What is the hook that will keep the franchisee tied in to your business at the end of 5 years? There are restrictive covenants in franchising, and the franchisee won't be able to carry on trading against you in competition, but they might well go away, come back a year, 2 years later, and set up using some of the experience that they've had to develop their own business. You want to stop that. So it's ideal if there's some black box, some secret method, some secret ingredient that the franchisee cannot actually replicate themselves. So once you're happy that the business meets the criteria, you need to develop the franchise structure. What is it going to be? How will the franchise work? Will it be a management franchise? Or will the franchisee actually be the key person working the business on the tools all day? Or will it be some other sort of form of franchise? Is it retail? How is your business best structured? And then you go back to your business model and work out what that package is going to be. And when pricing that package, you need to be sure that you can articulate the value. If you're going to charge £25,000 to a franchisee, why? What are you delivering that's worth £25,000? You need to answer that question. And at the end, once you've developed your business model, then you need to look at the financials behind it. If the franchisee does the turnover you say they'll do and makes the profit you say they'll do, how many franchisees do you need to make the franchise successful? What's your break-even point? If it's 4, 5, 6 franchisees, that's great. If it's 150, I think you've got a problem. So once you've developed the model, you need to move on to a pilot operation to prove that the business can work as a franchise. Ideally, this is something that you should deliver to a franchisee at arm's length. Pick somebody perhaps from your own organisation who doesn't really understand the sales and operations side of the business, maybe an accountant, they're ideal for following systems, or pick a friendly third-party person who's prepared to take more of a risk, a development franchisee, for example. But you need to run the business at arm's length, so you only support that franchisee to the extent that you said you would in the franchise package. You only go and visit them for the number of days you said you would in the franchise package to make sure that the franchise can work as a third-party operation under a franchise agreement. The pilot operation should ideally be company funded. Sometimes a franchisee will offer to pay, but at least their investment shouldn't be risked. So you should undertake to support them if it doesn't work and let them out of any agreement that you've made them sign up. It's important when you're doing the pilot operation to record the successes and the failures. If there's successes, record that and make sure you know how to replicate them. If there are failures, have a look at what that means to your business model and whether you can still operate a franchise. And retain that pilot operation after a while because you need something that you can test. You can change things without risking a franchisee's investment. When you develop a franchise, the most important thing is to start with the correct blueprint. If you've always meant to upgrade parts of the business, if you've always meant to buy in new IT systems, do it now. Don't do it once you get 20 franchisees who have already paid you money to get started in your business, because all you're going to ask is for them to spend more money and learn new things. So get it ready now. Make the changes you wanted to make immediately so that the franchisee doesn't have to change things later on. If that means investing in a business, then do it. Do it first rather than do it later. And remember that when you are franchising your business, you know how to run the business. It's replication, it's not invention, it's not making things up. You run the business and you're talking about replicating it as a franchise. So keep as close to the existing business model as you should. And then sadly, you need an operations manual. These are horrendous documents. There's usually a lot of information in them, but they can be very sterile and very clinical. The important thing for an operations manual is that it shows people how to do things, but more importantly, why to do them. And it also shows how you'll support and how they access that support. Don't underestimate the amount of time that preparing the operations manual takes. It can usually take 6 months and it's a heavy, heavy task. So plan for that and get ready for it. It does need to be ready before the franchisee starts training because that is what you use for training. And then the staffing structure. What do you need to be able to support a franchisee or a group of franchisees? You need somebody who understands the technical side of the business. There's no use having a spotty management trainee who's going to tell the franchisee what widget fits a sprocket. You need to do that. The person who actually understands the day-to-day technical side of the business needs to be available to franchisees to answer questions immediately. But the franchisee also needs sales support, both in the collateral they use, but also physical support in the field. Maybe you will run a telesales operation for them. Maybe you'll answer calls for them. Franchisees need support. They don't know everything straight away, and no matter how much you train them, they will still need you in the background. Field staff are going to be important too. You're out and seeing how the franchisee operates, making sure they're doing things right, helping them with problems, answering their questions, and generally just comforting them, giving them support from day to day. Business development, somebody needs to sit down with the franchisee and show them how they're going to go to the next stage, the next level. How do they start putting on a second van if it's a van-based business? How do they open a second office if it's an office-based business? How do they take on an employee? You need to work with them and work through business plans year in, year out to make sure the franchisee continues to grow the business and continues to be focused in it. So who do you need? Well, it starts with you, your current team. With the first 2 or 3 franchisees, you can probably do it with that, and it's probably good to do that. But as you grow, you need to invest in more people ahead of time, before you need them, so they understand the business and know how to run it. And ultimately, it comes down to culture change. You, as an existing business person, need to understand that your business changes from whatever you're doing now to helping to support franchisees and helping them to develop their own small business. And that's a culture change that not every business can manage.
As a franchisor, we set up to be very much different to typical franchisors who would set up for the franchisor's benefit, whereas we set up for the benefit of the franchisees, having had Ken on the other side of the fence for so many years. So everything that we do, our day-to-day interactions and our systems and processes are around the franchisee's success rather than the franchisor. We ran our pilot office in Preston for a good 12 months before we actually took on our first franchisee based down in Sutton and Epsom. So we learnt there that it was going to be a model that worked in toughest areas of part of the UK. Preston is not well known for its affluency. It's quite it's a college and university town. It's quite a vibrant city. But we knew then that once Preston was working, we could take this model and take it to other areas of the UK with confidence. It's essential that franchisors pilot the offering and the services before they take it to market, purely because we spent a year ironing out what works and what doesn't work within the local communities and how to actually understand what care is all about and take that to the wider market. We also had the backing and understanding of Right at Home, based in the US, who had 20 years of experience of franchising. Again, a large franchise organisation who we could seek guidance from in our early days.
The reason I chose franchising as my preferred development option was so that I could extend what I had to a wider audience across the UK. I was going to recruit, but recruiting locally meant that the idea was going to stay local. By recruiting via a franchise opportunity, I was able to recruit nationally. I ran my business for about 5 years before I franchised it, but I was fortunate in that a lot of the people that I had within the business as teachers at Monkey Music became my first franchisees. So I'd built a very good relationship with them, which I was able to then build on.
We chose franchising as our preferred development option because we're taking a system that had already worked in the US. The second, and probably the most important reason, is it's going to give us scalability in our business model, because we'd owned businesses previously, and that's where we'd really struggled to grow. We decided to run the business for 1 year before we started the franchising piece of it, because we never wanted somebody to say to us, oh, that's okay, it only works in the US. We wanted to really prove the model in the UK before we started, and we did.
Franchising was always the route that I wanted to choose, because I wanted to grow a national business. I wasn't really interested in growing a small local business. The ambition was always to grow a national business, and franchising seemed the natural route for that. With a van-based business, it was possible for me to start in a local area, but to use franchising to use other people's finance and drive and determination to take the business right across the country. Initially, I started the business in a van. I was van number 1, putting paint on cars, so I actually did the pilot. I did that for 3.5 years, and during that time I brought on board a couple of employees just to look at how a local business could run. After 3.5 years, or during that time, I looked to slowly franchise the business, bringing people on so that we could look at an arm's length pilot. So effectively running 2 pilots. One, myself, learning exactly what was required to run a successful business. And then secondly, with extended franchisees who would show whether a franchise model was could be successful here.